You can do it that way. Yeah, it'll just knock one of us out of the picture, but.
All right, there you go. Not our best start, but here we go. Welcome, everybody.
Fantastic.
There we go. We had some technical difficulties, but now we are on track. Let's pretend that this was actually what we started with. And Scott, this guy.
That's it.
Perfect. So we're gonna do Castle of Cagliostro Part 2, because there's so much goodness, and I just wanted to keep talking about it. And
because Jeff demanded it.
I did. I'd already downloaded this really cool combo of the stills from the movie and the storyboards that they correlate to. So
which is really awesome.
Yeah, I thought that'd be a really fun thing to do. So let's go ahead and basically just.
And this is just a genius movie. It's Miyazaki's first. I mean, it's like this is like we could do 3 weeks on Mean Streets, so let's do 3 weeks on Miyazaki.
Yeah, we could do that. All right, so
we're doing 2 weeks, I guess.
We'll set the scene. Everyone remembers this scene because it was part of the video game, and it's just an amazing scene. So they get a flat tire, and they pull over the side of the road, and this is where the combo storyboard still from the movie begins.
Right.
Oh, awesome! By the way, hey, viewers out there, if you haven't seen the film The Bad Guys, you should absolutely see that. It's from DreamWorks. I'm not saying that just because I used to be working there a few months ago. And a lot of their car chase stuff, I feel like, is heavily influenced by this film too. So just FYI.
Well, I think don't we think that Raiders of the Lost Ark was kind of influenced by this movie?
I mean, the timing certainly lines up, and it's very much the same kind of film. You know, like it's one out of the frying pan into the fire.
Totally.
I saw another quote today looking around some stuff where Spielberg says this is one of the best car chase scenes ever. And there was something else about it. I think he was just in general. Oh, no, it was about Spirited Away. He said it was one of the best animated movies ever, like, you know, for anything, Disney, anything, anywhere, anytime.
Well, I mean, Spirited Away
that makes me happy to think about Spielberg watching anime.
Yeah.
Very much so.
He's a student of all film, and like there's so many great anime movies that I think have influenced American traditions, but we just don't, really talk about it. All right, here's another one.
By the way, what's everyone drinking? Oh my God! So these are the storyboards, Jeff?
So these are the storyboards. I found a site that had the storyboards running with the actual film, and then I just took screen captures of that. So, but nice. Yeah, let's talk about our drawing or our drinking. What do you got, Jones?
Evening, everyone.
Until they discontinue this Nitro Pepsi Vanilla Draft, which I know they'll do because it's just too good to exist, I'm just going to keep drinking it till it runs out.
I think that's smart. I have a root beer.
Oh, an American root beer.
Yeah.
You're all going soda without me then, huh? I'm the only one boozing up. I've got some red wine.
Well, there you go. That's the real artist juice. That's Daddy's go-go juice.
A little vino would be Kino.
Oh, excellent.
Any watchers of Another Round, if they can name a little vino would be Kino, if they can name what that movie is from, they'll get a sketch from me.
I'll give him a sketch. And also Paprika. You give him a little extra. And then my favorite quote from that film is, "And what about this? Still drawing a blank."
All right. Bill O'Donnell, I'm very happy to hear you're drinking Jones soda. Wait, now you're drinking a soda in honor of me or from the Jones Soda Company?
We'll have to find out.
Yeah, there's Jones sodas. Their orange soda is quite delicious.
Same with their vanilla cream. They briefly did make a vanilla soda as well, but all right. I guess people don't want to just talk about soda.
If someone got diet water, how do you...
You take the oxygen out. That's the fattening part.
I guess so.
He means he's on a diet, not that he had diet water.
Oh, gotcha.
There you
Right.
go.
HGO
All right.
for me, damn this diet. Not damn this diet water.
So
All right.
there you go, Jones. Like, so this is the boards we should learn how to do.
Beautiful.
Loose, totally on model, since I guess he is designing the models, but also the squatch and stretch of the car.
Good luck selling these to an American animation executive or writer, but yes,
Probably.
beautiful.
Right.
Wow.
And I just
Yeah.
I love how much energy his drawings have in these. And like, this is what the boards I've always thought of as the best boards accomplish. They have a sense of motion already in the drawing.
And we do know some tremendous artists working in American pre-production that very much draw storyboards inspired in this way, and it's definitely beautiful.
Indeed. Mr. Rio comes to mind. And Sung Kim's boards are ridiculous.
And I think there's an artist named Stephen On who I'm thinking of too. AHAN teaches some online storyboard classes. These guys are just it's beautiful.
One of the things I like about seeing these side by side is how closely they do match, but where the actual final drawing is different than the board, right? Like, because clearly one of the things I think is interesting about this board, I think Keegan is a little he's too crowded by the car and by Lupin, the other car. So you don't really get his silhouette. So clearly when they finished the drawing, they adjusted that.
Good point, Jeff, because that's a beautiful storyboard drawing, but interestingly, they eliminated some dimensionality from the storyboard drawing of the car to create a better, clearer silhouette, by having it. And probably Jeff and I are working with some really good directors right now, and Jeff's working with a great director that loves this film too. And I feel like also drawing the car from a straight on angle is easier to keep consistent and animate, because this is way before you might have a CG model to help you keep your character consistent. But you're right, it's a great point, Jeff. It's like all the silhouettes read so much cleaner in the finished animation,
Right, and that's one of the things that go ahead, Scott.
It also seemed to me like that top part of the animation was like maybe a half a second, quarter second later than this moment of the storyboard. That storyboard is telling you that the car is going to come around that direction on the right-hand side as we're viewing it now. At this point, on the top part of the actual animation, I think he's already had that slide going on from behind the yellow car and whatnot. So at this point already he's bringing it around, so it's going to sweep around in front of us back to the left-hand side.
Scott makes a really good point, because it may very well be that all three of the foreground and middle ground and background are all on different layers, and there may have been a composition that looked more like this, and then to help sell the depth, they ended in this much cleaner composition, and then the sliding of the layers created a greater sense of depth.
Yeah, the storyboard on the bottom to me is already tipped so that we know that the car is going to go out and around, and the picture on top to me, we've already seen them slide move, and now they actually have to lean back, to your video, this way, so that they can zoom back in and around in front of the car.
Ever since we watched this movie last week, it just cracks me up how much like our fun life, which is this show, is corresponding with work life, because I've just been roughing out stuff in every conceivable idea for a shot that I can take from this. Like I have a shot in something I'm doing right now. I think I can say this without getting. I have like a plane is entering a scene in a scene that I'm doing right now. Like, so we're establishing like a new location, and our main characters are in this plane. And so it's like, well, how do you do that? And there's a great, and so you could do a shot where you're like in the new location and you're just looking up as the jet goes over, and that helps you sell the location, but then you're kind of distant from your main characters being in these tiny things, Or you could be in a cool thing where the camera's right there with you on the plane, but then you may not really be able to sell and explain what the location is that well if you're trying to just do it all in one thing. And I was proud of myself. I got inspired by, there's a great shot in this. I'm going to call myself out for my own swipe, but I think it's different enough. I'm not going to be in trouble. In Cagliostro, there's that great moment where Fujiko jumps off the burning plane after Lupin's been shot. And we start on her as she jumps away from camera. The background's panning underneath her, and then her little like wings shot out and she arcs away. And so I was like, oh. So what I'm doing is I'm starting on an overhead shot of this new location that our characters are coming to in my show, where we clearly see the front layer, we've got a mountain, the background layer, we've got the town that the mountain is behind. Then there's an even distant other layer in clouds. And then and then second panel, I've got the plane just coming in right in front of the camera where our main characters are. And then I've got the Bee Gees all moving on different layers to help sell the speed and dimensionality as the plane arcs in front of the camera and then away from camera back toward
Nice.
thing, all in one shot. Totally inspired by the Fujiko shot. It isn't the Fujiko shot.
Right.
But anyway.
Well, one of the things I love about this one, especially with the directors explaining, like, not only are these great artistic shots, but why are they so good at time saving, at helping sell the animation, and coming from comics and from CG animation mostly from my career.
You've done a lot of CG.
I've not learned those fundamental lessons of like how to make stuff work more efficiently. So it's been a real challenge for me to kind of like, this is year one of animation that I just missed.
Well, I don't know if it's that, Jeff. I also think it's fair. I think maybe Scott and I have talked about this before on the show, but Jeff draws so well, right? Like anyone that watches this show that's a fan of Jeff's artwork knows that, like, okay, his dimensionality and anatomical structure of the human figure is, unsurpassed. It's in a very high percentile in the industry. And then his drawing of perspective and everything is really good. So in a way, Jeff has never developed a thing that many, many artists have had to try to do, which is to draw around their weaknesses and try to come up with time-saving ways to not show things. Because Jeff just kind of figured out how to draw properly in the first place. So it doesn't occur to him to draw it the easy way or a way that tries to trick people. He just goes like, oh, let me just draw it in the way that I can draw it from any angle, and that may sadly sometimes be the most inconvenient, time-consuming way to do it because he knows how to.
Often I will pick the hardest, most ridiculous, unnecessary shot. Do you guys remember when I did that issue of Solitaire and it was set in sort of a Disneyland kind of place?
Yes.
And for some reason, I thought it was important for the story that we got kind of the feeling of the crowd and the environment. So I kind of shot everything almost documentary style. So, I mean, you could follow the action, but it was boring as shit. Like, it was all the stuff was happening way over there, as though someone was seeing it. I mean, the conceit was that it was happening and people were watching it happen. But that was dumb. That was really dumb.
Well, you were going off the reference that you got too, didn't you? Actually, like go to and get some reference and a whole bunch of shots.
I went to Disneyland, took pictures, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But certainly, right. Miyazaki's got there's some great shooting around crowds in this.
Right.
There's some great shooting around. Like when Lupin and what's his sidekicks? What's this guy's nickname? When they're in the restaurant and they spot the guy spying on him. There's a moment when the guy gets up and they've moved the camera down so that it's not flat because you see everyone clearly on different layers, but they've made it so that it isn't 10 times harder by moving the camera up and you're having to show the entire crowd,
Right. But that's the amazing thing of you guys learning that animation stuff that I haven't have as an opportunity to learn is like all this car moving stuff. Jeff, go back to the one before this or the two before this.
This one?
Yeah, that whole thing with these, not that one, with the car. Those cars keep like skidding over here and then over there as it's going, and they'll even like turn a little bit, they'll wiggle a little bit. Right. I made a list of like they're skidding, they're wiggling, they're jerking because there's times when they go.
Look at the great, Look at the great weight on.
We're doing all these things for this inanimate object that's going on. That, and I watched and I was paying attention to actually the tire movement. Every time he's turning the car, he's turning the wheels underneath. It's crazy.
Yeah, the syncing up the movements. Well, also if you notice in the top panel there, you can see the tire tracks through the grass where it's gone over the side. Yeah.
And then the bumper is leaned over, so you know, I mean, like the weight of the as they're about to bank into that turn is so great.
Yeah.
Yep.
This
The
next
motion on the
shot,
card is just phenomenal.
Yeah, but this is all the stuff that I love looking at storyboards like this. All that information, right, is in there. It's in the way that he's caught all those details in just a few lines and not belabored it, right? Like he knows that the motion will be captured by the next guy. Like he knows that the movement will pull you one way or the other.
I just realized I can steal this shot too. Hold on.
There you go. I mean, I've been studying this damn movie so much these last few weeks. It's really made me a better artist.
Yeah. Oh, well, Jeff, there's a shot. I think before this one, it was kind of a boring shot, but what I loved about it was just so cinematic. It was like out of a live action. Yeah, it was like out of a film or TV show where you would normally only have a shot like that because like the real humans in the shot would make it clear. But there's something very cinematic about the framing of this shot.
Yeah.
Totally.
Great cartoony storyboard drawing of Lupin.
And I was watching some of this stuff at like half pace, half speed, for what was going on with it, so I could check different things. And there's tons of stuff that I miss from even watching it, however many times I've watched it now, just regular speed. That when they move on with the next stuff and they start moving along, who's the buddy in the hat again?
Keegan.
His name? What's it?
Keegan.
Is it Keegan?
Yeah.
He winds up, not only does, when it takes off, then he's dangling with his feet in the air as he's trying to get through that sunroof thing. Then also he reaches up to get all that camping gear or whatever that packing stuff is on top of the car. He grabs it and pulls it down in as they're cruising away. So later on, we just have the cool yellow car silhouette.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, like all the actions, like when he pulls that little lever, right? He reaches under and yanks on that thing. Like, what's he doing? And then that pops up.
Yep.
And it totally seems, that engine, I'm sure, is based on a real engine.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And this did it too. When he started up this engine and everything, it didn't do the wiggle sideways kind of deal. But yeah, just like it's almost doing right there. When he started the engine, the car went down or up, depending on what he wanted to do with it. And here it is now with the whole trunk end being down, squished down to the ground as it's going. So if it's not wiggling sideways, doing this and that for the movement, it's wiggling up and down to get, again, this whole energy going with the cars.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, apart from studying the smoke, like copying the smoke, which I think everyone should do. I think, Scott, you're right. He's putting he's squishing the camping stuff into the back seat, the sunroof. He's not even there.
The next thing was just going to be his legs dangling out of the hole because he had to jump on. Yeah, he had to jump on super fast.
The smoke effects animation are tremendous.
But again, that wiggle thing. And look, he had to draw the 3D of that car right there, that little Italian car. He had to actually do this with it as they're rotating and moving it forward. So it's not even that it's sliding across the camera left or right. He's actually rotating it to give it that.
And the motion blur on that previous shot's BG too, where the clouds are starting to stretch.
Oh yeah, that's a really great. That's a great catch, Steve. Because like right here, they haven't started to move yet. They haven't started to blur, and blurred a little bit, blurred a lot more. Yeah, you don't even notice it, but it really enhances that sense of now we're hauling ass.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a great trick that I should use later on. Is like I've only ever done that once in a comic book panel, but I think that might even work well for even a static shot. Say, Scott, if you were drawing the Flash, to have him start and then stretch the stuff behind him.
Yep.
That would be interesting. You've done that before, haven't you?
Stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, I usually don't get multiple panels of him starting to run or doing this or that. It's, him stock still either, preparing to run or about to run, saying goodbye to somebody, whatever. And then the next one's usually him full tilt running somewhere.
What kind of car is this supposed to be? Do we know?
I think so. In the original TV show, he was a rich kid who was bored, and that's why he was stealing stuff.
But this one's very different actually from the other ones. The other one to me looks more like a Chitty Chitty Bang Bang car. It was a German car, I think, was always his setup. But they changed it for this one, which apparently upset a lot of Lupin fans at the time that this is a little Italian car.
Yeah, this was supposed to be
Or-
more
I
the,
just-
the work-a-day car.
I just Googled it. Says it's a Mercedes SSK according to
Oh.
Google.
Yeah,
Which,
but this one was like upsetting to people because the other one was much more of a sexy roadster, manly car, whatever it is, and this is a rinky-dink
love
little
this.
Italian thing.
Yeah, I love it. It
But-
looks like a Fiat.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I love its little, humble shape and bumbling around and everything else. I think it's so cool for a mirror.
Oh, that's all right. Well, sorry. One Google thing says it's a Mercedes SSK, and somebody else says it's a Fiat 500. I think you might be right, Scott. I think it looks to me more Italian than German. But
right. I think maybe his first car was the German one.
In the other two movies,
Gotcha. Right.
in the first two movies, it was always the other car. And this movie, he changed it. And everybody went, wait, what? No.
hey,
Right.
Like putting James Bond in a Prius or something,
Oh yeah, that would be a travesty. Can you even imagine?
Hey, if Miyazaki did it, it would be awesome.
I'm
No,
sure it would be.
no, this was the same shot, right? So we started. So basically, the foreground of this car is on a layer that they've been moving down and animating a little bit, or maybe not. Maybe it is a flat layer, and it's just the car that animated on it. But I think they did slightly animate this BG, and
Oh
they
yeah,
moved
no, I
it
think they
down
definitely they slid the
to
layers for
reveal the
sure.
back. Yeah. And then I think the background painting is probably on 2 layers too, where at least, where the road is on a layer and pointing at it like you see me pointing.
Right.
Like the road's on a layer and then and then there's 2 other layers in the far background.
Right. Well, yeah, because
It's
as the car moves around, you'll see the other cars in the distance making that turn, and the background slides a little bit as we get the illusion of the camera moving.
Yeah.
That was one of the neat things I saw also this last time I looked through it in slow-mo was the next 2 shots you have 29 and 30. This one, again, the background was just whipping by, but it seamlessly goes into the next one where the whip by turns into the 3D of that mountain range going away.
Right.
And I was just like, wow, he had that great, you're used to it from Scooby-Doo or anything else, that there'd always be that background going behind you, like on a wheel or something like that. And then all of a sudden,
Dude.
seamlessly, it goes right into that 3D thing that the car goes into. It's really good.
I just realized, so in Googling this, I just realized because I'd seen this in that new Mission Impossible trailer where Captain Carter is in it with Tom Cruise. They're using Lupin's car. They're doing a Lupin homage scene, and Tom Cruise and Haley Atwell are in that car.
Oh, well, there you go.
I love it. It's yellow and everything. That's so great.
Everyone who saw this movie or played this game, right, has never forgotten the experience.
Wow, that's beautiful. Both of those things are so beautiful.
Well, and look even how the guardrails are bent and curved. So even though they're on there for a second, they also seem like they're bending and moving.
Yep.
Oh God, I just can't get over that background. Whoever the background painter is brilliant.
Yeah, it's all just brilliant stuff. And again, what did they did this in 6 months, 7 months?
7
Just
months, 2 months.
insanity.
He boarded it in 2 months.
It's insane.
Right.
But
And a lot of
again, you
times
can see here in the third one that it slides over. It's
Yeah. I think one of the things that's really interesting about boarding is that as much as when you're drawing comics, you are also, the writer gives you a script, depending on if it's a plot or a full script, you are definitely writing the action, or you're writing what it looks like. So you're just writing with pictures as opposed to words. And also that depends on how much the relationship with the writer and the artist is geared towards that, and how tight the writing is and all that stuff. It's a sliding scale. But one of the things that when you're a storyboard artist, you really are directing and writing the action. Like you are describing everything that's happening. You just happen to be using pencils.
Yeah.
Here's a shot, Steve. This is the one that you could use.
Oh,
Look at all those cigarette butts.
Yeah.
I mean, all the things going on where the wheels on one layer, Lupin's hands on one layer, then the rest of the car is on a layer, then the road, the panning road's on a layer, the rails on a layer, the hill that's panning back on its on a layer, then both cars are on separate layers, then the BG is on a layer, and then the clouds are on a layer. It's like, how many different flat things can we all be moving at different speeds to create the illusion that there's motion?
Yeah.
But if you think about like very little animation, sliding this way or sliding that way, like just
Right.
knowing how to move things.
Whatever that's the cycle that they just had to put on the road that creates that continuous. It's amazing.
That blurry. Yeah. So not only do I love the cigarette butts because they are an amazing character drawing that just describes the relationship and how long they've been in the car, but I love the reflection in the mirror because the mirror is angled in such a way like you're not seeing it straight back, like you're seeing kind of what Lupin, not what Lupin might be seeing, but what you would be seeing if you were sitting behind him.
It's a good point because most of the time you would artfully take the thing of putting someone's, like Lupin's reflection in the glass, but something tells me that they, that someone got in a car and went like, well, no, if you're sitting in the, if we're literally seeing it from this character's perspective, then that's what we'd be seeing.
Actually, what's funny to me is that immediately struck me as the, like one of the shortcuts he would have like given into with all the other layers you just did, described, that there were like what, 5, 6 layers of different things going on in this shot, and then having to animate his face in the rearview mirror itself. Holy mackerel! That might have been one of them where Miyazaki would have been like, no, we got to focus on everything else. The face in the mirror doesn't matter.
Also, what's important in that shot? I think earlier Steve was being very nice about my drawing skills, but like, I think being able to draw and knowing how to break something down and construct it, that's one thing. But I think far more important than that for storytelling is knowing how to choose what to draw. Like that's a thing that I always struggle with, and I'm still trying to figure out is like, what is the best thing to be drawing, not necessarily how well it's being drawn.
Yep, and how do they work in conjunction with each other and all that stuff? The shot before this, the shot after this, what's it going to crescendo to? All that stuff.
Yeah.
And now we come to Jeff's favorite moment of the entire chase scene.
Yeah, he's like, what do we do? Who are we helping? The girl. Yeah, that's
good to know.
It's good to know, because at that point, like, what are we doing? He's such a ride or die character.
That's the one where he says it when he's got the just taking the drag off. He's like, good to know. Yeah, and we're off.
Yeah, so fantastic. Really, really great. Yeah, and there's so much movement and so much. I mean, being able to, I love these guys. I love these bad guys. They're so obviously. This is the thing about Miyazaki. His character designs are so poetic. Like, we see these guys, and we know immediately who these guys are. These are the bad guys.
Yeah. Yeah, they're chasing a girl. They're dressed a little bit like bad guys, and then the whole aggressive nature of their travel and everything.
Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah, and the very good point about the silhouettes of the vehicles and the car. Yeah, it's making your shapes clean. That is half the battle.
Yeah, they are 3 very different cars.
Yeah, right. And also,
Lupin's by far the most different. He's the most unique because he's the lead. But,
right, and the color, the yellow color, I always think these are interesting choices. Like, because they have mostly just primary and secondary colors. There's not a ton of really odd purples and like funky bright green. Like it's a pretty mild palette.
Yeah.
Yes.
This does have the color shortcut that you would do in this time and age or whatever, that it immediately does the storytelling that the girl's driving a car that's a little bit pink and the bad guys are driving a blood red car.
Right.
Oh, this is great. They're supposed to be catching her, but they really seem like they're trying to kill her.
Well,
that's pretty dangerous.
Yeah. the edge of the side of the road. So great. So I think one of the things that as a lesson that I would like to learn from these boards is how to, I mean, obviously the rule of thirds is always being followed. Like if you look, his drawings are all perfectly composed and very mellow, but like, I think that he's much more interested in the gesture of, I mean, look at Lupin driving in the sketch, right?
Yeah.
It's just a scribble. Like it's just a scribble in the eyebrows. He's just trying to catch like, this is what's happening. And it's not even like it's further back. It's little, you know, it's not a sloppy drawing, but it's not a meticulous drawing either.
No, but look, I mean, there was still a tilt to the shoulders there. And for the other guy, there was still a sweep to his body as he was standing in the, trying to get his head through the sunroof and everything. There's still always movement every one of those drawings. Yeah. I mean, look at it there. That was great. Yeah, he had the duck for the fender to go flying over his head.
Some great gunfire effects animation coming up.
Yep.
Great little smoke, gear change.
Look at that. I would love to be able to put the elbow up, right, just to think about where that's going while you're driving. It's just so much. And then the bus.
Yeah, again, there were like 1, 2, 3 tries of him shooting before he actually got to shoot. This was awesome. The whole lean.
Yeah, up on 2 wheels.
Because that was another thing I didn't notice in the end of this little leaning portion. Lupin actually leans out of the car to get it back on all 4 wheels. He has to lean himself as he's driving out the window to get, there he goes.
Oh, yeah, look at that. There he is. He's like, oh. Great moment. I mean, it's character moments like that that make you really love these guys. Because as badass as they are, they're in real trouble. Right? They're always just surviving.
Yeah, always seeming like they're hanging on by the skin of their teeth, even though they still wind up doing, crazy, impossible things like cruising up the side of the hill as they drive up, that the car is almost sideways as it goes up.
Yeah.
Such a great sequence.
Yeah.
And then not always doing the 3D, once in a while pulling to the profile.
Right. Well, because that gives you that sense of speed, and it's an easy way to show they're catching up.
Yep.
Right. If they're in the same shot, then we totally understand their relative distances from each other.
Exactly. Right. So this is a good one. So we get to see him coming. We hold that scene for a little bit. Get a little airborne action.
And he gets the most air because he's the littlest car. The other cars get a little whoosh, whoosh, and they go, whoa.
Yeah, it's beautiful planning.
He's merely enormous.
He's barely huge.
He's no bigger than a house.
That's another obscure reference. Someone's got to get that one.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Deadeye Jigen.
Now, here's a funny thing about this shot to me that I have a question about.
Sure.
So we get to the next one where we get the flash. The flash is pink.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it lands on the tire,
it's
yellow.
It's yellow.
If I was talking to my colorist in the comic book, my first instinct would be that both shots should be yellow.
Well, it's an interesting question, Scott, because it's a bright pink. It's a flash. It can't be yellow because the car is yellow. I mean, maybe it could be
why?
It could be it could be orange because if it was yellow, it would just look weird. This is
also a shot where he figures out that he can't shoot it with a regular bullet.
Right.
So it could be different because his bullet doesn't actually pierce the tire here.
I think Jeff's theory is correct. The car is yellow, and so for this flash, in And I also suspect that this flashes on the screen for a shorter amount of time than the tire one is.
Yeah, just a quick second.
But in both cases, right, the yellow is going to pop more, and if it was pink, it would blend in more with the red car, right? Because it's similar color to the highlight. And if it had been yellow on the other shot, it would have blended in too much with the car. So that's my theory.
Might be it. That might be reason enough.
Yeah, I think he's picking colors apart from looking. I think for the most contrast.
And by my theory, I mean I'm stealing Jeff's theory.
Right. One of the things, we talked about this before when we were watching, is that there's the positive and the negative, the back and forth of like, like I've got the shots, I never miss, I'm taking the shot. Damn it, I hit the tire, but that didn't work.
Yep.
Right. So we always think that there's a winning and a losing back and forth, and that's one that makes this scene so tense and such a crazy ride.
Right. Reversal, reversal, reversal.
Yep.
And then we're losing.
The hand grenade, the old school German hand grenade.
The hand grenade, yeah. Hi, Chihuahua.
And then one of the
it goes tink, tink, tink.
Yeah. But see, what I love is that the board is just he has it in, like, since the backgrounds are moving and the hand grenade's moving, he just used the same board and showed the hand grenade falling towards them.
It's just a cycle on the ground, another cycle on the mountain, and a cycle on the railing, and then slowly moving the mountains in the background at a different speed, than everything
Look at that
else.
tip of
and
a
then
car.
the clouds too.
Right.
Wait, go back.
So.
Oh. This one?
No,
or this one.
Look at that tip. Where'd it go? That one. Sorry. Oh, geez. Here we go again.
You get it, Scott.
Stay out of there.
All right.
There.
It's almost scraping. Looks like Herbie the Wonder Bug.
Oh,
it does.
So good.
And then it misses. Like, he avoids it, but still, that would have been bad. So we get like we just escalated. Like, I love the constant escalation.
Yep.
We went from shooting to the danger of the road to now, like, oh, these are serious explosives.
Hand grenades, and next is Godzilla.
Right. Love that explosion.
But then this one, the next one, they actually, they go right back into it.
Yeah.
And it shatters the glass and everything.
But then, look now, the car is all jacked up.
Jacked up, lost a headlight, front windshield shattered.
Just from the concussion.
And I love how these guys can pull the glass with their eyes open.
Yeah. Totally focused. Like, never losing eye contact with the prize.
Michael Coleman, I agree. I think I'm very happy that we live in this era where for 20 years now, 30 really, that we get these beautiful art books from Disney and Pixar and most of all of and DreamWorks and most of all the big companies now put out an art book almost every time we get an animated film. But I always wish they would do a separate one that was just storyboards, because we always get a storyboard section, but boy, it'd be great. It'd be great to see the boards.
I have a bunch of boards. The Wizards of Earthsea or Legends of Earthsea, they did a big art book, and they have a bunch of boards in that one. But you're right, so we don't get the whole thing. Every once in a while, Steam Boy had one, which was amazing. And you'll get some stuff. Naruto sometimes puts out the little ones a lot.
I think in Japan they put out more just for the Japanese market, but they're not always easy to get here.
Right, Scott, do you remember? Is this which button were you hitting to get up the thing?
Which? What do you mean?
For in the game? Do you remember the game? Like,
this was definitely a right at this point because the car was still going right. So I think you had to hold it to the right, so it would keep going up the hill.
Button. Who's got the button?
Who's got the button? All right. 9. There we go. Hang on.
So good.
Oh, so candy-like button. Yeah.
Oh, you did have another section of here for more picks. Great. I wasn't sure
Yeah.
that you had the rest of this thing.
I do.
This sequence of it going up the hill, man, that's magic to me. That's the power of whatever magic that Miyazaki can do. Everything else is fairly realistic but fun animated. But he pulled this off so you don't question a word. If anything, you just giggle at the joy of this thing, of this car going up this hill. You don't question it. You roll right with it. It's great, and it's total bullshit, but it's awesome. It's so
but
good.
Somehow it seems right on the edge of plausibility. Somehow, you know.
Right. One of my favorite things about this, Jones, is like, so that tree there is there for, I think, for a couple of reasons. One, it gives us a sense of distance and scale, but also it just gives us like, it just shows us where the edge is at in a way that you might not feel it. Like, as opposed, like, it's kind of like just a guy standing there, like, I'm about to, you could fall, like the way it's tilted.
And he used it as a signpost. He goes that they make up to that far, then they skid, and then they turn.
Yeah.
Right after the tree. So it's telling you what's going on. It's highlighting, it's showing it. Because again, you've got that yellow of the car against a light sky blue background. Wouldn't be that strong, but you've got a tree in the middle of it. You're not going to miss it.
Yeah. It's definitely it's one of those things when I was talking about like what to draw and why. The decision to put that tree there added depth, danger, and it made the drawing, the contrast stronger, so the drawing was easier to read.
Yeah.
And just compositionally, it reinforces the rule of thirds nicely as well.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I love during this whole section when it's going through this stuff, any of the grass stuff especially, it's still screeching like it's totally on asphalt.
And the smart choice is by having a bunch of like dirt fly off past behind the tree, you get once again, you get that sense of scale and danger.
And it warms you up for the what it's going to go through in a second when they cut to it. So again, you're not lost.
Right, because now we got introduced to one tree, and now we're in the middle of a bunch more trees.
Yep, with tons of little pieces of foliage and everything coming through.
Right,
Shang-Chi style.
So, this one's insane. This is the one again where it's like these guys are crazy enough to attempt this whole sequence with all those leaves flying around, the tree branch that hits them, and all these things.
Well, all that was added. I mean, there's just the very so much like he set the scene, but then a lot of the bird flying around, that was a guy drawing that bird in there.
But American animators or anybody else would not have spent the time on that.
No.
They would have done a profile shot with some twigs and branches running past you, and then they would have cut to this when it broke out. They would not have done that scene of it coming through the car like that.
So, so one of the things I wanted to point out, which I thought was really brilliant, is like the angle of the tree this way up and to the right, and then as we go through the forest flat, right? Where is it here? Right, it's crossing over, and then when we come out on the other side, it's angled down and to the right.
Yep.
So we've made that transition as an audience.
Right. Yeah. Screen direction has been maintained.
Look at that.
Plus, then they turn the other way as they drive too. Now they are heading to the screen left.
Yeah.
What's funny there in the storyboards, he had the car more broken up, and you saw more pieces of it. In the animation, they just covered up with giant pieces of the bushes and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is great because then it eventually falls, when we get down to the bottom here to the street level again, those will fly off and hit the other cars.
I love being able to stop the scene and actually look at how did they achieve that sense of motion by just a bunch of straight lines for the grass, just a bunch of color blotches.
Blurry painting.
Yeah.
Great drawing.
The antic, and then.
Oh, and that showed that scene too, because right before they go down, he leans the other way, and then they go down.
Yeah.
So he does the prep. He does a little crouch before he jumps.
He does the wind up.
Yep. Oh, look at that car!
I still love the engine. Oh,
That
they're
thing is
so
just
high
genius.
up. Yeah.
It's amazing.
I think he can fixing getting the right bullet in. Let's see if I what color flash they use.
Yeah, because now he's got armor piercing.
That guy's see this against the red. That guy's the same color as when the bullet hit his tire. So that yellowish orange.
I think they're just using the contrast.
This probably won't show it in this stuff you got the shots of, Jeff. But it was funny when that guy was shooting the gun.
Mm-hmm.
Every time, well, that I saw anyway, I thought every time the gun went off, actually his mouth closed. So I'm not sure why I'm seeing that there, but I noticed it like the 3 or 4 times that it shoots off. Every time his mouth closed, he shot. Mouth closed, he shot.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was a funny reaction. I'm like, why did he do that to emphasize the movement of each?
Possibly.
Well, Jeff's fired more guns than we have, but I think your natural inclination is to close your mouth when you shoot.
Well, yeah, I think it takes a lot of practice to not close your eyes, to not jerk, to not go bang.
We don't see Arnold going like this in a lot of movies. Actually, we do,
Right.
but mostly when the actual firing's going on.
Oh, yep. There's pink, but it's bigger.
Here we go, pink again.
Yeah. But a much larger explosion.
Yeah. And yellow again looks like in general on those guys. And yeah. Oh, look at that movement. Look at the guy hanging off the side as the car is veering away from him. It's hanging on for dear life.
It's such a Chuck Jones kind of drawing. It's got so much. What they do with so few. I mean, being able to have less lines in a drawing is always something I aspire to.
Look at that front tire. You see how it was turned in? Yeah. Oh. Because the other wheel got, yanked out, got shot out from it.
Victory.
It took me all to figure out that was the tire that flew off the car.
Yeah,
See
from the back of the car.
I think that's the other front tire.
37, 30, 30, that. Yeah. All right. And that is it, my friends. That's all we got for the pictures. Victory. And then he saved her, obviously, but I don't have the storyboards for that one. I think that this is being able to see the storyboard and the final product side by side is really an education. And I remember once our friend Shant telling us about when he was learning how to be a storyboard artist, that they would freeze frame panels from cartoons and draw them in much the same way that we used to, copy out of comic books. I think it's just the best way to learn is to really dive deep and analyze what's going on and why does it work.
See what the pros are doing.
Yeah. All right, guys. Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, I wish we could do this with every scene in the movie, just for my own edification.
Agreed.
Well, and here again, I think it was one of those things because of them being under that tight budget. That last shot you were showing, Jeff, was showing the villain car. It was going back, was much more sideways. And in the actual animation, it was much more just forward as it just receded to the end. They just kind of slid it back. I'm guessing that ultimately that was another shortcut. Like his storyboards say it's all sideways.
Oh, right.
Off. And they just had it as a forward thing going, oh, we're going to disappear.
Yeah. Well, plus once you get in and start picking, whenever you do boards for a fight scene, right? Your first pass is pretty loose. Like this guy's over here and he's doing some stuff here. It's not until the final, and that's, when you really get into the nitty gritty and start putting in the blocks and the punches and you get down to maybe being on 3s or 2s, then you start adding a lot of stuff once you start cleaning up the animation.
Right. Plus, I mean, either way, it's still really smart of them pushing it around the corner before the car, destroys or breaks down or flips or whatever it's going to do.
Oh, yeah.
You're still making it a kid's film, so this is still not very violent at all.
Right, and also much easier to animate.
Yep.
Yay!
Victory.
Look at his little face. Look at Lupin's face looking over his shoulder.
I mean, you really, and you can really, we talked about this a little bit last week with JoJo, but Lupin is so clearly Spike Spiegel, and Jigen is really jet black too.
Mhm.
Like you substitute the hat, but they kept the jowls kind of, like the facial hair on jet black is so reminiscent of Jigen.
Yeah, and his silhouette, his facial silhouette, his design is so instantaneously recognizable, right? Like you never confuse him with any other character.
And I guess not necessarily Miyazaki's version, but a lot of the other versions of Fujiko are very in keeping with Faye Valentine, right?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Well, that was great.
We learned things.
We learned things. We shared some things. I do think that, for me anyway, it's been great to study this film, especially since it keeps coming up and references the show we're working on. So
right, exactly.
I think that as an industry, everyone has studied and references this film all the time, just because so many of the solutions are elegant, right? Like they're time saving, they're beautiful, and they work every time. Yeah, smart. It's a smart movie.
Yeah,
it's definitely. I feel like Jeff and I would have happily been studying this film in Raiders of the Lost Ark anyway, but we've both been studying Raiders of the Lost Ark and this film a lot lately. And and if you only had one animated film and one live action film to try to learn how to do action storyboarding from,
this is the one.
You'd be in pretty good shape with those two films. Like, right. Okay, Desert Island, you're going to learn to be a storyboard artist.
You got one movie. It's got to be this one.
I'm saying you got two. You got Raiders and you got this. I think you're in pretty good shape.
That's fair. I think that covers all the bases.
I'll be in on that island.
That sounds like a pretty entertaining island.
It sounds better than Candy Apple Island.
What do they got there?
Eggs.
But they're not so big.
So big.
Possibly one of the best Simpsons lines ever.
Agreed.
Wish we're going to Candy Apple Island. Oh. All right, gentlemen. I think that'll do it for tonight. So as always, I think all of our information is in the description box down below. Please check out our various sites, like and subscribe. That helps us out a lot with various algorithms. I know if you're interested in our own personal art, we all have stuff for sale, be it sketchbooks or pages or commissions or whatever. So hit us up down there. And I think I will put this up and play us out with some music and then say goodnight to everybody.
Next week, we're going to have an exciting guest. I don't think
next week we have a great guest. And I'm not even sure what we're going to talk about. It could be anything.
I suspect it's going to be something creepy or scary, but I could be wrong.
I can't wait. All right, so don't miss us next week. Tune in for the furthering adventures of another round. Good night, everybody.
Three knuckleheads. Toodaloo.
You're welcome.